Now, this is the kind of episode where the Oval finally remembered what kind of show it was supposed to be. Not just affairs, not just secrets, not just somebody hiding a body under a pile of dirty clothes. This episode gave us one thing that this show has been needing for a long time, and that's stakes. Because when the country is under attack, suddenly all the side drama has to sit down somewhere. It has to take a back seat. The flirting, the betrayal, the little private vendettas, the hallway whispers, and all the bedroom scandals, all of that gets pushed to the side when everybody realizes one thing, that either they stand together or they all fall together. And that, my friend, is what made this episode very interesting. Because for once, it felt like everybody in the White House understood the assignment. Hunter, Victoria, Donald, Sam, Kyle, Isaac, everybody had to fall back into position. Not because they suddenly became good people. No, let's not get carried away here. But because survival has a way of making even messy people adopt this crucial discipline, right? And the opening scene in the White House of the conference room, it worked because it reset the board. Hunter wanted to know who was with him and who was not. And honestly, that question needed to be asked, right? Because the White House has been operating like a luxury insane asylum for several seasons. Everybody has a secret, right? Everybody has this side mission. Everybody has betrayed somebody. And half the people in the room have either lied, cheated, covered up a crime, or plotted against each other. But now there's an actual national crisis, right? And suddenly all that personal mess had to be tucked away because the country is under attack. And this is where the episode gets very interesting because the attack does something that writers needed to do. It forces these characters to stop playing separate games and start playing one dangerous game together. Now, Hunter tells Sam to lock down the White House. Everybody starts moving. Everybody starts taking orders. And for a moment, just a moment, you can see what this show looks like when the drama is attached to power instead of just chaos. And I have to say, I like that. From a storytelling angle, this episode gives season 7 a foundation. It takes Hunter from being just this reckless president who creates most of his own problems and places him in a position where he has to actually act like the president. Like now, whether he's capable of doing this is a whole different conversation, right? But at least the situation demands it. And it's just like when your grandma or your mom used to tell you, when you go in this store, well, what do we do, guys? We act like we got some sense, right? You may not have a lick of sense, but you better act like you got some sense when you go into this store. And this is basically what Dilva is telling everybody in that White House. Then we get to Eli in the infirmary, still in the hospital bed after being shot. And Simone is still there trying to cry her crocodile tears and apologize for Bobby, right? Or about Bobby. Now, Eli, sir, let's not act brand new here because Eli is sitting here judging Simone about her affair with Bobby. It's very rich considering that this man had a full-blown love affair with Victoria. Not a little emotional slip, not a misunderstanding, a real affair with the First Lady. So for him to suddenly be wounded, offended, and morally disappointed, it's a lot, right? Eli is not just the victim here. He's the pot calling the kettle black. Period. And then Max is standing there with Eli's blood still all over him, while Eli looks strangely clean for someone who was the actual person who was shot. Now listen, I know television does what television does, but sometimes the visual details matter. And if Max looks like he just came off the set of a horror movie and Eli is lying there like he just finished a nap in urgent care, somebody in wardrobe or continuity needed one more conversation. Just one. Now hold on, because this part does matter. This infirmary scene, it's not just about Eli and Simone. It also reminds us that even the people outside the Oval Office are starting to understand the scale of what's happening here, right? Max gets the word that the nation is under attack, and Eli wants to go upstairs and help with strategy, which makes sense for his character because Eli still thinks of himself as a leader, right? In his mind, he's still the president, but Simone had to advise against it. And then here comes Alonzo calling for shelter in place. So again, the episode is making the same point. Nobody is safe and nobody is moving about the White House all willy-nilly and freely anymore. Then we go over to Allan's apartment where Allan finally lets a police officer inside to make sure that nobody is in there being held against their will. And the officer walked through the apartment. He doesn't see the dead woman hidden underneath Allan's dirty clothes, and then casually told Allan to turn up the TV because the news is reporting attacks on the United States. Because the entire scene depends on the officer somehow missing this dead body under a pile of dirty clothes, and yes, I know the body was hidden, but still, this is one of those does it really make sense moments where watching like, sir, do your job just a little bit harder. Look around a little bit more intent here. I just feel that this scene, it could have been a little bit more intense, just a little bit. But as a suspense device, it works because Allan is sitting on top of a disaster. He's technically screwed, right? Then we go over to Miss Nancy, Sharon, and the two gunmen, and the return of Miss Jody. Oh yes, and I have to say, it was refreshing to see Miss Nosy Jody again, because Miss Jody is one of those neighborhood characters who makes the world feel like it's lived in, right? Every dramatic show needs somebody who knows a little too much, hears a little too much, and shows up right in the nick of time when the foolishness is still going on, while it's still warm. The two gunmen, of course, they want the money that Sharon took from Kareem's apartment, and Sharon and Miss Nancy tell them that the money is in the stolen car, which of course isn't there. And they gave them 48 hours to get the money back, or they're going to permanently put them to sleep. Yeah, that kind. So this is where I need the writers to be very, very careful, because Sharon's character, in my opinion, it may be going through an aborted arc where she seems to be a fish out of water a bit. I mean, what connected her to the storyline in the first place was Barry, but he's been gone, and her presence sometimes it just feels a little out of place to me. And I know that she may feel connected, but even when Barry was alive, she was still smashing Kareem. So go figure, I don't know. Still, the scene works. I mean, it's hanging on by a thread because it still adds a little bit of pressure. When Miss Jody tells Nancy to turn the TV on because the schools are shutting down, that little line right there actually helps sell the seriousness of the national crisis, right? Because y'all know when the schools shut down, it's something serious. But everybody turning on the TV, turning up the TV, or finding out from the TV, it started to feel a bit overused, that phrase, right? Just a tiny bit. And this is the part that I don't want to skip over, because in television writing, repetition can be useful when you want to show that one major event is affecting multiple places and multiple people all at one time. But if every scene uses the same device, somebody turns on a TV, somebody says, look at the news, somebody hears the broadcast, it feels, I don't know, less like dramatic tension and more like a writing shortcut. The attack is major enough that we understand it. We don't need every character to discover it in the exact same way. Right? I don't know. That's just my opinion. Then we go over to Richard in the hotel room with the detective investigating the prostitute's murder. Now, Richard finds out that the woman he slept with was killed right down the hallway. And the detective tells him that she was a sex worker, and Richard denies knowing the woman, right? He denies seeing her, seeing anything, seeing or hearing anything. Basically, Richard is trying to separate himself from the situation as fast as humanly possible. And I get it, but Richard is in trouble because this detective is requesting surveillance footage from the hallway. That means that Richard's denial is only as strong as that camera angle. And we know in a show like The Oval, you already know the camera is either going to catch too much, not enough, or just enough to ruin his life. Now, Richard is calling Sam in a panic as usual. And it makes sense, right? Because Richard knows that this could blow up. And I feel like his lies, it's going to become harder to hide, because this is where I think the trap is being set. Everybody has this private scandal, but this public crisis is going to force these scandals right into the light. Allan has a body. Richard has a dead woman down the hallway. Sharon and Nancy have a gunman threatening them. Priscilla may become the next body. She was attacked by wimpy as weak as Jason in the White House hallway. And I don't know, we'll get to that in a minute. Eli and Simone and Bobby, I don't know, this love triangle, broken marriage. Hunter and Victoria, they're rebuilding their fake power. And Dilva is fascinating because she walks into every scene like she knows where the bodies are buried. And honestly, on this show, she probably does. She goes down in the bunker and she's taunting Priscilla and Bobby. And Priscilla cannot believe that Dilva is helping Hunter take his power back. Now, Dilva basically reminds her that trying to overthrow the president isn't exactly legal. Now, she brings up Sam and told Priscilla that she owes him her life. Right now, Bobby is just sitting back listening. And this is very interesting because Bobby is usually not someone who fades into the wallpaper. But in this scene, he's watching, he's studying, and he lets Dilva talk. And Dilva, she keeps being described as this CIA myth, which is a good phrase, but again, the episode started leaning on it a little too much. But still, Dilva, she has presence. And I do think that there is something between Dilva and Sam. Maybe not a full affair, I don't know, maybe not even a past relationship, but there is an energy there. There's familiarity, some tension, right? And if Sam didn't also seem to believe that she was some kind of myth, I would wonder if they've crossed the line before. But even without that, the chemistry is very interesting because Dilva challenges everyone, and she's not afraid of Priscilla. She's not impressed by Bobby, or Bobby's muscles, or Bobby's big old schlang-a-lang. None of that is moving this woman. She's definitely not intimidated by Eli or Simone. She's moving like somebody who knows that she has backing from a level of power that nobody in the building fully understands yet. And that brings us to this hallway scene with Hunter, Isaac, and Jason. Now, Jason says that he's been coughing up blood, right? And Hunter, he sends Isaac to get the doctor. Then Hunter apologized to Jason for being a horrible parent. Now, this was a small moment, but it does matter because Hunter apologizing to Jason is not something we're used to seeing, right? Hunter and Victoria have been terrible parents, and we can all attest to that. This is not even up for debate, right? Jason is a product of dysfunction, neglect, violence, manipulation, and a lot of emotional damage. So when Hunter apologizes, it doesn't erase anything, but it does show that the writers may be trying to soften Hunter just a little bit, at least complicate him, right? And the same thing happens later with Hunter and Victoria, and we'll get to that. And this is where the episode gives us what may be the beginning of their character arcs. And Lord knows they both need it. Now, Hunter is preparing for this press conference, and Ignatius, the content writer, he's trying to help him with what to say, and Hunter loses it. He loses his temper because, of course, he does. You know, it's Hunter Franklin. Then Victoria enters, and then she told Hunter that she had a talk with Dilva, and that she's starting to figure out who Dilva really is working for. But then something shifts. Victoria starts talking to Hunter differently. She takes him down memory lane, city council, mayor, then governor. She reminds him that they're all there because of him. And for the first time in the history of this show, it felt like Hunter and Victoria actually respected each other, not loved each other, not trusted each other. Let's not move too fast, but respected each other. And that's huge for these two because Hunter and Victoria usually operate like enemies who happen to share a last name and a crime scene. But in this scene, they realize the same thing, that if they don't work together, that they're both going down. And this is why I think this scene was not random. From my perspective, this is the start of a possible redemption arc, like I stated before, or at least a temporary alliance arc. You know, Hunter and Victoria are not suddenly good people, but this is a good start for them. You know, they understand the optics, they understand the power, and they understand how to survive it. And when Victoria suggests that Dilva Prinn as becoming the interim White House press secretary, that was a strategic move. Now, I do have questions though, because if Dilva is connected to the CIA side and Constance sent her, and Constance is connected to Victoria's father, then what exactly is Dilva's real role? She seems too powerful, too connected, and too dangerous to simply be reduced to press secretary. That position feels almost beneath her, especially when we remember the previous press secretaries. Ellie, she was not taken serious at this level at all, right? She was in bed with Hunter. Diane, the other press secretary, she did her job pretty well. So putting Dilva in that seat, it feels less like a promotion and more like putting a shark in a fishbowl. Unless that's the point. Maybe press secretary is just the public title. Maybe her real job is to control the room behind the room, right? Then we move on to Lily and Priscilla's phone conversation. Now, Lily thinks that Donald is locked up and she's finally getting her life back, but Priscilla had to tell her the bad news. Girl, Donald ain't in jail. And this was enough to ruin her day. But Priscilla also says that they had to find a way to get the news that they originally reported to the now dead reporter to the DOJ, the Department of Justice. Jason overhears her talking in the hallway, right? He gets upset and then he charges at her. Now, this is important because Jason is unstable. He's sick, angry, and emotionally just off the rails. He's coughing up blood, he's upset, and he's still Jason. So Priscilla being caught in that hallway, the conversation may become even bigger than she realizes. And I know this because I've seen episode number 4. Y'all, it's gonna get really crazy, right? I just don't understand how a woman like Priscilla can let Jason, of all people, trap her like he did. And finally, let's just move on here. We're on episode 2. But finally, we get to Hunter in the press room, and he stands before the press and announces the bombings and the attacks on U.S. soil. And this is a moment that the episode has been building toward. Hunter has to step into the role. He has to speak to the American people. He has to project strength, control, and confidence. And then in the middle of his speech, there's this loud crackle on top of the White House, and then we faded to black. That ending worked. It worked for me because I feel like this is exactly where the storyline should be at this point in season 7, and it's off to a great start. We've got a few new characters, new motives, same storylines, but it's taken up about 5 notches or so. Now, this is the scale that the White House needed. This is the level of danger that makes the White House setting matter, right? If the show is going to be about power, corruption, loyalty, betrayal, the national leadership, then the threat has to be bigger than who's slipping with who, right, in the next room. This episode finally gave the season a strong foundation. Now the question is whether the writers can keep it there, because this setup is very strong. The alliances are shifting. Hunter and Victoria may finally be operating as a team. Dilva Prinn is clearly more powerful than her title. Sam is back in his command mode, right? Jason is becoming a threat again. Richard and Allan, they've both got secrets that could explode at any time. Sharon and Nancy are on that 48-hour clock, and the entire country is under attack. So now the Oval has no excuse to drag, right? The board has been reset and the pressure is very real. And if the writers handle this correctly, season 7 could finally feel like the political thriller that it was designed to be. But if we take this strong setup and then they send us back into this repetitive hallway argument, fiasco, overused dialogue, and people turning on TVs every 5 minutes, then we're gonna have a problem. But this episode proved something, right? The show can still be exciting when the stakes are high and the characters are forced to move with purpose. So watch the show. Watch the show. And yeah, watch the show. And now I want to know what you think, right? These are just my thoughts. Now, do you believe that Hunter and Victoria are truly starting a redemption arc? Or are they only working together because they're scared of losing power or their lives? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, like this video if you like the video. And if you're a fan of The Oval like I am, then subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for joining me today on Ruthless TV, you guys. And I'm going to see you on the next one.